Rise and shine. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and tune in to Good Morning Aurora. News, weather, and really cool interviews. Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m.
Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. The time is 7:24 a.m. You are listening to Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast, and it's Friday, the 12th of February, 2021. I hope you're having a blessed and great morning. If you're up, get the coffee up, get it out, get it out. Hold on, let's take a sip with you. Let's do. Oh, all right. So let's get into the news. We've got a bunch of great interviews to talk about. You guys will have seen yesterday's interview, which was done with Spots on the Fox, Keel and Anna, two great folks, great local business. Check it out. Think about becoming a vendor on Spots on Fox. Great website. All right, news. Let's get into it. Just got a text. Okay, that's great. Good morning to our friends. All right, so tomorrow, Saturday, Lovers Lunch at McCarty Mills from noon to 2 p.m. There's a great new business that's coming in to Aurora very soon, and you are getting the sneak peek, sneak drop information right here. Corinne's Kitchen. So on the menu will be slow smoked ribs, southern style greens, maple bacon baked beans, and butter crusted cornbread. That sounds really good. So if you're in the area, come on down to McCarty Mills on River Street. I can't think of the address right now. It's 100 and something South River Street, right by the Aurora Public Library, and right next to Jimmy John's, right down the street. All right. And the Fire Museum, the Aurora Regional Fire Museum, has buy one, get one free admission tickets. And that is one per customer, and that expires June 1st of this year. Check out the Aurora Regional Fire Museum, 53 North Broadway in Aurora. Their number is 630-256-4140, or visit their website at auroraregionalfiremuseum.org. Okay. Growing your business with LGBTQ friendly practices. That Zoom and Facebook Live will be taking place on Tuesday, February 16th. We've posted this on our Facebook page for you guys. So please take part in that. And that's brought to us by the library, Aurora Public Library, and the HRC Human Relations Commission. Shouts out. The Noon Lions fundraiser is also tomorrow. Spaghetti dinner fundraiser at Luigi's Pizza and Fun Center, 732 Prairie Street in Aurora. Drive-through method, or you are welcome to come in. The Aurora Noon Lions International Club is a great organization. All proceeds will go to support the Aurora Food Pantry and Marie Wilkinson's Food Pantry as well. Shouts out. Okay, Virtual Rock and Rumble, Monday, February 15th and Monday, March 15th at 10:30 a.m. Join the Aurora Public Library on Zoom for a fun music and movement program for all ages. Registration is required. A Zoom link will be emailed prior to the program. Check that out. Please take part in that. It seems like it'll be fun and with a lot of good music. And the Vote Mobile van is still out there, but today is the last day. It'll be at Prisco's Community Center today from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So get out there and rock the votes. Township elections are this month, and mayoral elections in the city are in April on the 6th. All right, so we got great stuff today. Bunch of great interviews. I'm not gonna preview who we have coming onto the show today. You will have to check out the episode and see. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Spotify, YouTube, and iTunes as well. And like the page on Facebook. And if you've got Instagram and Twitter, holler at us. Get at us on both of those, Instagram and Twitter. We are proud to be the second largest city's first daily news podcast. Big shout out to all of our fans, all of our listeners, and all of our subscribers as well. Shouts out to everybody, all Kane County, wherever you're at in Kane County. Stand them up, get them up. It's early in the morning, so hopefully you've got your coffee percolating and getting ready for this fantastic day. Have a safe, blessed weekend and a wonderful Friday today. And that is the news. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Curtis. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, doing great. We're blessed and having a great day today. Cold outside, but still it's warm in here.
That's right.
So for our listeners and our viewers, those who are unfamiliar, let us know who you are and where you're from.
I'm Bill Donnell. I'm the alderman of the 4th Ward, and I live over on the near west side in the Holy Angels neighborhood.
Okay, all right. And you are from Indiana?
Born and raised in Columbus, Indiana, my wife and I both, which is about a half an hour south of Indianapolis. Great little town. Columbus is known for its architecture and industry. Cummins Diesel is down there. My dad worked for Cummins Diesel for 25 years. So
well known, well known. Is there any similarities between the Columbus, Indiana experience and Aurora, Illinois?
Columbus is a town of about 35,000 people, so much smaller.
Right.
But I will tell you, very engaged in the arts, which is a similarity that, hopefully we'll talk about a little bit more.
Oh yeah, we will.
Very engaged in the arts. They had an Indianapolis Museum of Art, satellite right there in Columbus. And each year we had Pop Fest, which the symphony came down and performed out on the steps of the library. So, yeah, very, very nice.
Growing up, what impact did your mom have in your life?
My mom, well, I guess first thing, we lost her too soon. She fought cancer for 20 years. But she was a registered nurse, a very giving and supportive person, very loving person, a great baker, taught me to make pie, gave me the love of pie. And so, if you love pie, you got to know how to make pie. So she did that, but very supportive of us, very supportive of whatever we done. I was played in several sports, in high school, but I primarily was a swimmer. Oh. And my mom loved to go to swim meets and cheer me on. When you come up out of the water and you can hear her over everybody else, it was pretty cool.
How long were you a swimmer? How long did you swim?
I swam through junior high and high school, so
okay.
So 6-7 years. So
okay. When did you make the transition from Indiana to Illinois, Aurora?
Well, I went to attended Purdue University, got a degree in landscape architecture, and went back home and worked at the city county planning department, but had an opportunity to work on a park, a big county park. They said, build this, give this a try, and I really enjoyed that, and then started looking for opportunities to work in Parks and Recreation. And in 1984, I was lucky enough to get a job at the Fox Valley Park District as their landscape architect and planner. So my wife and I moved here in 1984 to work for the Fox Valley Park District.
Oh, right. What exactly does a landscape architect do?
Well, where an architect creates indoor rooms, the landscape architect creates outdoor rooms. Things have to function properly.
Right.
So if you, let's take a park for instance, you need to be able to, get around through there, pathways and
sure.
sidewalks and the like. You need to have activities like basketball and playgrounds and shelters, and arrange that so that it makes sense. Then when you have all that in place, your palette as an artist is the plants that you use, the trees, the shrubs, the grasses and the like. So I worked in residential design before coming to Aurora, but my passion really was the development of parks.
So that's something that we'd see in a place like a Morton Arboretum. Is that the kind of is that an example of good landscape architecture?
The Morton Arboretum is more of a research facility, but it is a beautiful
gotcha.
And landscape architects, I'm sure,
gotcha.
helps lay out the roads and the pathways and where the buildings go. And all kind of trying to work with nature. We're more today we focus more on that than kind of a formal design. Well,
right.
the formal design is still out there, but in Illinois we have a history of what we call prairie landscape. So
right. Okay, so you get so 1984, you get the job with the Fox Valley Park District. What's life like for Bill Donnell at this time? How's things?
Well, life was good. We we were able to buy a house on the Near East Side on Lebanon Street.
Okay.
My wife and I bought a house, and we'd been married for a few years, but didn't have a family. But once we, I told my wife, I said, we got to have a nest before we start laying eggs.
Yeah.
And so we bought the home, and in 6 years we had 3 children, and so life was good, and loved the area. We were close to the river. I always was fascinated with the Fox River and,
Right.
and the recreational opportunities along the Fox River. So yeah, we really enjoyed it. And again, Aurora, obviously much bigger town.
Right.
At that time, probably 100,000 people versus the little town of 30,000 I came from.
Right.
And we loved the big town feel of it, and tried to patronize things downtown. 1984, we don't have what we had today, but we did come downtown to try to. We were just fascinated with that. We used to go to the Stallion restaurant for breakfast.
Stallion restaurant. I gotta, okay. That's one I gotta look that up with who on the show.
Right.
What was Aurora like in 1984? You mentioned, perfect segue from, but you mentioned downtown. There was more. What was around industries?
Well, Caterpillar was, the big dog
Right.
was still here, really going strong. All Steel, Equipto, a lot of those, and when you talk about the Fourth Ward, Dave Hipp is a local resident that wrote a great book called, The Rise and Fall of Industrial Aurora. And what we had at that point in time is we had businesses, international businesses, SA, the Stevens, Richard Wilcox. We had a lot of these big companies, and some of the other ones I just mentioned, that not only were here, but they were locally owned and locally managed, and those people many of them lived in the Fourth Ward.
Wow.
So what you'll find when you go through the Fourth Ward, you'll find like a block and a half from my house is the old Equipto building. It's right on it borders on Lincoln Park, one of my favorite parks, we'll maybe talk about later. But you had that close relationship between industry and the men and women that ran those industry living in close proximity in beautiful historic homes.
Sounds to me like the true meaning of a word or the phrase blue collar.
Well, and there was a lot of opportunities,
Right.
of opportunities for people to have jobs, and maybe we'll talk about Copley Hospital in the future, but Copley Hospital is also in the Fourth Ward and
Right.
currently being redeveloped. But again, as I talked to people who lived around, in that neighborhood, many of them located there because of the jobs they had at the hospital.
That's awesome. All right. What are the boundaries of the Fourth Ward?
Well, we can talk about roadways, but I'd rather say Aurora University
Okay.
kind of anchors the Fourth Ward on the west side. The Bardwell Copley Hospital neighborhood, east side. We're the only ward that truly goes across the river.
Gotcha.
Downtown does a little bit, but there's a whole 1/3 of the Fourth Ward is located on the near east side, southeast side,
Okay.
surrounding. Bardwell School is kind of the anchor over there.
Right.
And Copley Hospital. Also go up to West High, coming down Galena, and we cross the river right down over here at North Avenue, and so we are a diverse and large ward.
Yeah, very much so. That's quite a stretch. So, tell me about the Gold Medal Award for Fox Valley Park District.
Well, the gold medal is the Oscar for Parks and Recreation, and the Fox Valley Park District, they won it twice. They won it the first time before I came, basically for the development of the Red Oak Nature Center and many other facets
Right.
of the Park District. But then we won it again, later when I was there, and really they evaluate everything you do as a Park and Rec agency, and I truly was blessed to have that opportunity to work for them. I worked for the Park District for 15 years as their landscape architect, and then I was promoted to superintendent of parks, which then I got to take care of the parks and maintain things, and so it was a great opportunity. But yeah, we were judged not only on our parks, but our recreation programs, which were still are wonderful opportunities for the city, people of the city of Aurora, Montgomery, and North Aurora.
What are the characteristics of a good landscape architect?
I think first off, you have to be a good listener. If you're working in the private sector, you're normally working with maybe a husband-wife team. Sometimes you need to be able to listen to both of the opinions and come up with a solution that works for everybody.
Right.
You know, in my arena where I worked in the public sector during Parks and Rec, you still have to be a good listener. We had a citizens advisory group many times for new park development, where I would meet in people's living rooms and we would talk about what it is we wanted in the park, what was important, and normally that went pretty well. I remember one time we couldn't agree on the color of the playground, so we made the playground multicolored, and it worked out pretty well.
Really?
But you also have to understand the functional relationships, that how things relate to each other. You may not want the basketball court right next to the playground because you got two different age groups oftentimes playing on that, and so you want to have a little separation. So I think you have to be sensitive to those functional relationships. And then again, my education focused a lot on horticulture, so it's understanding what plants do well here, and again, towards the end of my career, or we really started focusing on natives, trying to use native plants that were adapted to our area. Native grasses, we incorporated native grasses, which you'll see many times in parks. And then you start to look at the biodiversity that brings, the butterflies, the insects, the birds, so that folks can kind of have that more of that natural connection with some of the areas that are more naturalized.
Such as the sunken gardens in Phillips Park?
The sunken gardens is a beautiful formal garden,
Okay.
which they have incorporated native grasses and many other things. It is that's more the old tradition, and,
Okay.
and it's beautiful. Phillips Park is the biggest park in the city of Aurora, and it's run by the city of Aurora.
Right.
Fox Valley Park District runs the majority of the parks, but there's a few of them, Garfield and Phillips, that are still run by the city, and they do a beautiful job. Obviously we have the zoo and the award-winning golf course, but even the golf course, if you're a golfer, you go out, there's a lot of natural areas. I think they're Audubon certified, so there's birds and insects, and you get that complete experience.
And we're going to talk golf. That's on the list. That is on the list. When did you become alderman?
Pardon me?
When did you become alderman?
I was elected alderman in 2013. I retired from the Fox Valley Park District, had an opportunity to retire, worked in the private sector for a couple of years, and then there was an open seat on city council in the 4th Ward. So that seemed I kind of missed my connection that I had at the Park District, because as superintendent of parks, you're kind of a problem solver. You're the guy that people calls when things aren't,
Right.
You need an extra sign here, or something's broken, you got to fix. So I had that connection with the community, and I had a great experience in the private sector, but I kind of missed that connection.
Sure.
So in looking at the alderman job, I thought, well, maybe this is similar to what I did at the Park District and what I felt I had, some competency at, and also I knew a lot of people that could help, make things happen for me, and not for me, but for the citizens that ask things. But so I jumped in the race. There was one other person in the race. It turns out 5 more people jumped in the race, so there were 7 of us in the primary. So it was fun, and I obviously was successful and was elected in 2013.
Wonderful. Now you were chairman of the Planning Commission as well. What is the Planning Commission and what does it do?
The Planning Commission is a group of citizens that are appointed by the mayor and city council to kind of evaluate, like subdivision plans, rezoning plans, plans, comprehensive plans that we have, and it's it kind of lined up with my education and experience, and I sat on the Planning Commission for 27 years, and the last 10 years I was the chairman of the Planning Commission. So it's a great experience, but I tell you what it teaches you. It teaches you to listen. Because this is, the Plan Commission is also the location where you get public input. And like City Council, where we limit public input, but we don't limit that at Plan Commission.
City Council's 3 minutes.
Well, it's still 3 minutes because, but you know, we cut that off at a half an hour at City Council. So you don't go the whole night with public input. But at Plan Commission, you're there to listen. And I will just tell you, when the Premium Outlet Mall came through, was a big project. We did a lot of listening, and, which is important.
Of course.
So, but that, you know, it taught me patience. It taught me the ability to listen more carefully and purposely. And obviously they're still going on today. Plan Commission is still a critical part. They kind of do the work, you know, of the public hearing, but they also help guide us in the direction that we need to go. So I've always listened to the staff. Of course, I sat in that other seat for a while, so you respect that. And but they do a great job.
In your time working with the city, from Park District to Alderman, what's one thing that you learned that you didn't know before?
Well, there's hundreds of things I learned that I didn't know before. That's a great question. Let me think about that for a minute. But well, you know, the whole listening thing, which I talked about, I think was important. I was 27 when I came to work for the Fox Valley Park District, and I was the department head of one. Planning was it. Wow. And you know, as a young person, you kind of think you have it figured out.
I got this.
Yeah, I got that. Or you know, I studied that in school. Or But I think as you mature and you have life experience, you realize that there is different perspective. Not everybody looks at the same things the way that you might.
Right.
And so you have to be able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and look at it from their perspective.
I just learned talking to you in the discussion that you just talked about with the basketball court. Yeah, sure. Teenagers and high schoolers are rambunctious on the basketball court. Your 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, you might want to have a little, Wow, I didn't even, mind blown. Let's talk the Infrastructure and Tech Committee.
Okay.
What does that do? Sounds easy enough to know what it does, but what do you guys do?
Well, there's some, you talk about learning things. I don't know what this makes me, but I am fascinated with what's below ground, how it works, how the sewers work, how the water mains work. You know, there's gas mains down there. I saw a picture one time somebody had drawn that showed, all the layers, the subway, everything that's below Earth.
Wow.
A lot of what infrastructure and technology has to deal with those things. What we're trying to do here in town, which you're actually mandated to do by the EPA, is separate our storm sewer from our sanitary sewer. So the sanitary sewer obviously is when you flush the toilet, that goes down to Fox Metro.
Right.
The storm sewer is what picks up the water from the streets and goes into the river directly. Two different things. And many older communities like Aurora, old industrial towns in the Midwest, built combined sewers so that everything went together. And during dry weather, everything goes down to Fox Metro. But when you get big storm events, you would have overflows of combined sewers going into the river. And so we work hard on that, and we're still doing those projects. We just approved one for Sexton Street, decombining these kind of sewers. And obviously, I think that the environmental benefits, and again, we really haven't talked about it, but that's kind of been my focus. I was with the Fox River Ecosystem Partnership for many years, was president of that twice. Again, focused on water quality in the Fox River, and these combined sewers are a big deal to try to take care of that. And Aurora's doing a great job.
Right.
Water mains. I had no idea water mains cost so much money. And when do they fail? And some of them last 100 years, some of them last 20 years, depending on the kind of soil they're in.
Yeah.
Many people probably remember last year about this time we started a project of a water main replacement over on Galena by West Plaza.
Right.
That was $1 million job, and that's what I kind of learned is how much things actually cost.
Right.
Another one we dealt with wells. We have a number of we have 3 sources of water: deep wells, shallow wells, and the river. we had to recommission a well that had been taken out of service and we needed new equipment for it. That was $250,000.
Holy cow.
So I learned how much things cost, and certainly when I was newer, I would ask a lot of questions because of how can this cost so much to do this? But you know, when you're talking about something the size of the city of Aurora, and this isn't a little well, this is a big well, and it's 1,000 feet deep. You know, the prices are go up.
Of course. Holy cow. Well, the environment's crucial. The ecosystem is crucial as well. How was Aurora? Do we have a bad infrastructure system? I mean, you mentioned the combined sewage system, but how was the water? You know, how were things before for those who, was it terrible? Did we have a poor quality?
Many years ago, we'll say 100 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, because again, it was common for factories to sit along the edge of the river to just dump their whatever, you know, byproduct they in the manufacturing into the river. So 100 years ago, water quality in the river was not good at all. And I don't know if you ever heard the story of the fox, the environmental crusader who kind of exposed some of that. Armour Dial was one of them, that the waste products from making soap would go right into the river.
Right.
And obviously, I think today we know that that's not good for the environment, not good for the animals that live there. But I will tell you, Aurora and many communities have made great strides. The Fox River Ecosystem Partnership goes from the state line all the way down to Ottawa, so it's the entire watershed of the Fox. And there's a group of people that work together to try to their goal is to improve water quality. And at that point, when it was formed back in the late 90s, there were grants that we would give out to help people improve that. But I will tell you, a biologist with the state, Steve Pescatelli, I'll give him credit where credit's due. We were having a focus, you know, trying to come up with a comprehensive plan for the Fox, and he got frustrated, and he said, a river is only as good as what lives in the river. You can always tell the water quality by what lives there. And basically, if you find high quality fish in the river, then the water quality is good. So we're finding high quality, you know, walleye. Walleye are a sensitive species, and we find walleye now in the Fox River. We used to do, when I was at the Park District, we did a lot of projects where we plant native plants along the edge of the river to kind of stabilize the edges of the river. And one group that came to work with was called the Smallmouth Alliance. They were a bunch of fishermen that loved to fish for smallmouth bass. And they told me, and I couldn't believe it, even though I was involved, the Fox River is one of the best smallmouth fisheries anywhere in the nation.
Oh.
And so that says something for, you know, where we've come in the last 100 years in the improvement of the water quality of the Fox River.
This is a great conversation. I like nature, and yourself and Mr. Charlie Zine are two people who really just blew my mind with nature and the ecosystem so early in the morning. This is a great conversation. Let's talk about the Rules, Administration, and Procedure Committee. RAP.
They had to turn it around so it didn't mean anything. I said, well, let's call it RAP. So that's the committee that is chaired by Carl Franco, which I think has been on your program in the past. Yep. We look at different things, new ways of doing things, rules, procedures, you know, administration. And I will tell you right now, we're looking at, and have been looking at for a number of weeks, a proposal which would, right now, you can sell purebred dogs at pet stores.
Right.
And so Naperville, after many years of deliberation, elected not to do that. So we have pet stores in Naperville that are looking to move to Aurora so that they can sell. And there's a big concern about puppy mills and the humane treatment of pets. Dogs primarily, but also cats and rabbits.
Sure.
And so for several weeks we've been listening to subject experts and try to decide whether we need to have an ordinance and what that ordinance looks like. So I will tell you, this is something that I have got more input than virtually any issue that I've had since I've been an alderman. So
Wow.
we're carefully looking at that. But it's, again, that's an example of the kind of stuff that RAP is responsible for.
Was there, did the Naperville experience produce any, like, you know, documented abuse or anything that was really like some concrete cases that we could see, like, here's evidence locally that we...
Well, most of these dog breeders are not in urban areas. So they'll be in Indiana, many of them are in Indiana. Missouri is a big state for it. Southern Illinois has a lot of breeders, and many of them do a great job.
Right.
But many of them don't. And again, through the Humane Society and some of the other advocates for humane ordinance, we've seen lots of examples of,
Right.
of inhumane treatment of and the raising of especially dogs. There's other things that we can't really control, is the internet sale of dogs and cats.
Yeah. Facebook Marketplace and all that stuff.
So, and some say that if you ban the sale in the pet store, then everybody's going to go internet, which is even worse. So, it's a tough issue that we've been talking about for some time, and again, no one spent a lot of time with that. But that's the type of thing that RAP has to tackle.
When are those meetings?
Well, Tuesdays, every other Tuesday, we have a normal RAP meeting, because to look at this issue with the sale of pets is so comprehensive. We've scheduled a special meeting on Wednesdays. The next meeting will be Wednesday, February 17th at 3 p.m. And virtually everybody that's contacted me, I responded to and thanked them for their input, and directed them to watch this, because it's not a simple issue.
Right.
And we'll spend 2 hours on that Wednesday the 17th talking about this issue. We spend 2 hours every day.
All right. Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Resource Council. Excuse me. Tell us about that.
Big Brothers Big Sisters is a national organization that provides mentorship for young people, boys and girls, and again, I've had some experience with that, and you know, at that point they were housed with Family Counseling Services, which is just around the corner.
Oh yeah,
just around
River
the corner.
Street.
River Street, yeah, and
good place.
Again, it's a great model for a program, and I was in it for a number of years. And again, and I've had some firsthand experience. I've actually encouraged more people to be bigs. My brother was a big because I pushed him a little bit. My daughter was a big sister, and they really it's a great experience for both. You know, I think sometimes the mentor gets as much out of it, as a young person. But it's really trying to find someone young person that maybe doesn't have someone in their life that's their champion, and that big becomes their champion. And there were some advertisements that used to. You don't have to be like a Superman to be a mentor. You have to be a regular person that can spend some time. The experience that really drove me. My wife, back when we lived in Columbus, was a big sister, and they would just go shopping, or maybe go to the movies was a big deal, but go shopping, not wasn't any big expensive kind of thing. And years later, 5-6 years later, we had moved. We're up here. My wife gets a Christmas card from her little, and she's got a picture of her family, and she thanked her for She says, "You helped me through that tough time in my life."
Good stuff. That's the kind of memories we're trying to make with people.
That's right.
That's what lasts a lifetime. All right, so now we're going to get to the golf part.
Okay.
All right. First, do you golf?
Not well, but I do golf.
Tell us about electric golf carts for Phillips Park. That seems to be an initiative that's pretty big.
Well, obviously there's two kinds of golf carts. There's the gas carts that have a little motor in them, and then there's the electric ones that are quiet,
right,
and don't produce any kind of pollution. Obviously charging there, there's, if you go way back, you may be able to document some, but they're clean,
right?
Kind of like electric cars. And so we had a meeting the other day where Phillips Park wants to enter into a new contract for golf carts, and the question came up: could we do electric carts? And it's something I think we want to look at. right now, if you can imagine, if you have, we get, I think, 64 carts. We can only get 32 of them in the garage to where they get plugged in.
Right.
I don't know that you want to plug them in outside. So we don't have all the answers yet, but I think what we'd like to do is look to the future to see if we could, again, if you're going to plug in 32 golf carts, you're going to have a significant electrical infrastructure.
Yes.
And there'd be a cost to that. But what we said in committee is, let's look at that cost. Let's make an informed decision, and if we can, maybe we can do some electric carts in the future.
So when's the next, I guess, set of discussion and progression for that issue?
So that came out of committee, and we'll go to committee of the whole,
Okay.
Cal. And I think, and Alderman Lofty asked to see, and I don't know if they're going to have enough time because there's really only a week or two between the two meetings to try to figure out exactly what that cost would be.
Right.
But I think, for me, what I want to do is kind of, let the staff know that we're interested in going a different direction. And then ultimately, the council would have to say, okay, it's X dollars, are you willing to budget that money to go that direction?
Right.
Kind of weigh the benefit versus the cost. So I don't know that it's something we can do this year, but it's something I want to look for in the future.
What's it like being on it? What's city council like? What's it?
Well, it's different today than it was before COVID. Now we're all Zoom,
Yeah.
which there's a lot of pluses to Zoom. You get to look at each other. You can work from your living room or your office, and but you don't get a chance to just kind of chat with
Right.
your fellow aldermen. So, somebody said one time, "Oh, I think it'd be fun to be an alderman." Well, I wouldn't use that term. It can be rewarding. I think it is rewarding when you can help people. I work hard to respond to people within 24 hours, whether a call or a phone call or an email. My phone is right here. This is my office, so you're going right to my cell phone, and that can be good and bad. I mean, sometimes there's problems that you can't solve,
Right.
or you can't solve quickly. And I had a gentleman call me, and early in the winter he didn't have any heat. ComEd had cut off his power. There had been some sort of a miscue. Is this really a city issue? Not really.
Right.
But we were able to help him work through ComEd, and we got his power back on. His wife actually, I don't want to talk too much, but she had a health issue which she needed power on, and so that's rewarding.
Right.
But it can be stressful. There's people will call you and express their opinion, and you have to go one way or the other. You can't make everybody happy, and so
Right.
you have to try to figure out what's best for the city.
What's one misconception that people have of an alderman, besides the fact that they think you can fix anything? Are you really responsible for our pothole circle?
In a way we are. I look at myself as a representative of my constituents. Yeah, we sit at city council, used to be in the city council, now we're in Zoom, and you make big decisions on $400 million budget, and you try to be responsible with golf carts. But I think my primary responsibility is to be responsive to my constituents. And a pothole or a street light or a sign missing, I take those seriously, and I will tell you, we have a wonderful staff in the city of Aurora, wonderful responsive staff. As you can imagine, I know the mayor's got a new program to shovel snow, but I got a lot of snow calls recently, and some of them you can do something about pretty quick, some of them you can't, but you need to respond to those the best you can.
Right.
And so yeah, in a way, I think we do a pretty good job with potholes, by the way. But people have to understand that a lot of times that's a temporary fix.
Right. What does America mean to you?
Oh my gosh, great question. America, it really does have the opportunity for anybody to achieve anything. I think, we're not a perfect country, But I think when you look at other countries, and I've traveled a little bit, you know, what you can do, you know, even as a, you know, like a first generation immigrant, you know, you can start a business, you can be successful. And I think America, you know, it's I don't want to say land of opportunity, but it truly is. Mm-hmm. It's a land of freedom and opportunity, and you know, obviously my home.
Yeah.
And I've been blessed to be able to travel, and there's other places that are wonderful, but I wouldn't want to live any place but here.
The show ends on a positive note. What is your message to the citizens of Aurora on this Friday?
I will tell you, Curtis, it's been tough. It's been a tough year. I think I'm not telling anybody anything they don't already know.
Right.
But on the positive note, I think we're climbing out of that. You know, more and more vaccines. That's the number one thing people are concerned about is the vaccine. Which, you know, again, I don't give the shots, but you know, we're trying to figure out, you know, how to guide people to where they can get shots.
Right.
But I think we're climbing out of that, and hopefully, you know, my church, you know, we now can have 50 people in church where we had nobody in church, you know, two months ago.
Right.
We're starting to climb out of that, so be positive. I think we're going to get through this. We'll look back at this as a tough time, you know, both from the COVID, from, you know, social unrest to you know, politics. I think we're moving forward in a positive direction, and hopefully soon we'll be back to, you know, going downtown out to eat.
Right. With a nice sunshine and not 8-degree weather. Hopefully.
Right.
So I want to end the show by saying thank you and let you know that a friend of the show, Nelson, also said, young man, also said he appreciates you. So with that, we appreciate Mr. Donnell for coming on to the show. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you, Curtis.
It means
appreciate
a lot.
the opportunity.
It means a lot. All of you listeners and viewers out there, have a safe, blessed, wonderful Friday, and we'll see you guys back.